Tip 1 of 5. This week, candidate interview feedback. The tip 1 is make sure at the end of your interview, you're asking the client, asking the interviewer how you've got on. Ask for feedback. Say to them, if you don't mind, give me some feedback on my application so far. And specifically, are there any questions you want me to expand on further that perhaps I didn't explain myself well enough? What this does, it gives you another opportunity to resell yourself to that client. Typically, you've got 45 minutes to an hour max to sell yourself. And they may have got the wrong impression about some of your answers. This leaves them with a lasting impression and also shows how much you care about your application. So make sure you're asking that question at the end of the interview. Tip 2 of 5, candidate interview tips. Tell them, if that is indeed the case, at the end of the interview that you want the job. You will be amazed, we take feedback all the time, how little people actually say at the end of the interview, look, just want to let you know how much I want this job, how much I want the opportunity to work for you and the business. This leaves a brilliant last impression, and when potentially they're deciding between you and one other person, if it's very, very close, who they're going to go with. The person that shows the passion, the person that shows the audacity to some extent to say to them, I want to work for this business, I want to work for you. Those little things can make a big difference in a very, very, very competitive environment. Tip 3 of 5, candidate interview techniques. Right, really crucial. Not many people do it. Make sure, if possible, you do your research on the actual person who's going to interview you. A perfect way is on LinkedIn. You can see their career history. Typically now it's like a CV. You can see their interests, qualifications. You can see friends in common. All this type of stuff. A, it shows you in research. B, you might be able to bring up certain things that you have in common. That might be universities, it might be sports, whatever it is. These are key things where you as a interviewee can do research on who's interviewing you, and it makes a good first impression. So make sure if you're working with an agency, they're giving you all the insights in terms of who you're meeting. And if not, make sure you find that information. Tip number 4 of 5 this week, candidate tips, candidate interview tips, is make sure you actually get a list of questions. Think of a list of questions before your interview, print them off or write them down and bring them in to interview and put them right by the side of you. I promise you, A, it looks professional, B, it shows you've done your research. And actually, it's so important you get out what you put in this interview and interview them, not interview you. So make sure that you've got a list of questions of actual things that you want the answers to, because the chances are, I would put 10 to 15 down. The chances are 7, 8, 9 of them potentially will have come up during the interview. And when they ask you what questions you've got, you really want to have some good punchy questions at that stage. So make sure, think of your questions, type them, print them out, write them down, bring them with you, put them next to you and start the interview. Tip number 5 is quite similar to tip number 4. Make sure you interview them. Don't let them only interview you. This is a two-way process. And if I'm being honest with you, it's more important to you than it is to them, because it's your career. And you need to make sure this is the right decision for your life and your career. So take this opportunity to actually ask them the questions you want the answers to, not what you think you should ask them. Make sure you ask them things where you're going to make a good, informed decision following this interview. Make sure for you this is a two-way process and you're interviewing them for your next move just as much as they're interviewing you. Again, any tips, please speak to us at Theo James Recruitment. Thank you.